to read the thing. Are we live? Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Welcome to the Sustainability Commission meeting. The meetings are broadcast live on Glendale TV, viewable on Spectrum Cable, Channel 6, and AT&T Universe, UVerse, Channel 99. Meetings are also streamed live in high definition on the city's webpage, glendaleca.gov/live, or on youtube.com/myglendale, and on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire devices using a free app called ScreenWeave and choosing Glendale TV from the menu. Meetings are also archived on the city website for viewing anytime at glendaleca.gov/agendas. Call 818-548-4013 for program schedules. DVDs of the proceedings are available for purchase in the city clerk's office. For public comments and questions during the meeting, please call 818-937-8100. Public comments on a specific agenda item will be taken when that agenda item is discussed. If you have any questions about matters on the agenda or requests for assistance, please contact the Management Services Department during regular business hours at 818-548-4844. Okay, and can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Kartunian,
Present.
Commissioner Kanjian, Commissioner Bartrosov,
Here.
Vice Chair Pinkerton,
Here.
Chairperson Werner,
Present.
ex officio Borisov,
Present.
ex officio Kudo. Here. Next item is 1A, Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Ready? Begin.
Next agenda item is 1B. The agenda for the August 4th, 2022 meeting of the Sustainability Commission was posted on July 29, 2022 on the bulletin board outside City Hall. Item 2 is approval of the minutes. 2A, approval of the minutes of the commission regular meeting held July 7, 2022.
Okay, did anyone have any comments or corrections on the minutes?
No, I would move to approve.
I actually have
Unless you have
one,
some, okay.
yeah, just one. It was kind of small, but where we were talking about the park, and I was asking if everyone on the committee was design professionals. Instead, the minute said professors. It's supposed to be professionals, so anyway, because that would have been a really strange question. Okay, and
What page is that on, if I might ask?
let me see. Find that. Page 3.
Design professors, I see, it should be professionals. Very good.
Okay, and so can I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So move.
Okay,
I'll second it.
okay, can we have roll call, please?
We have Chairperson Werner,
Yes?
Vice Chair Pinkerton,
Yes.
Commissioner Bartrosov,
Yes.
Commissioner Kanjian, and Commissioner Kartunian.
I would like to abstain. I wasn't here.
Next item is agenda item 3, board member and staff comments. 3A is introduction of student ex officio commissioners.
Chairperson Werner, so we're very excited to have our 2 new student ex officios join us for this meeting today. Yazuna Kudo, who I'll let her introduce herself a little bit, and Mike Borisov. They went through the rigorous interview process. It was very hard to select the candidates. All the candidates were very high caliber. But we're really happy to have them on board, and we're looking forward to hearing their voice and their comments on the work of the Commission as we go forward. Yuzuna, if you may.
Good evening, members of the Commission. My name is Yuzuna Kudo, and I'm currently a rising senior at Clark Magnet High School. And I'm extremely grateful for this opportunity to apply my experience and background in environmental science, GIS and remote sensing, as well as citizen science projects to this position. And I'm looking forward to working with you all to serve Glendale.
Thank you. We're happy to have you.
Good evening, Commissioner members. My name is Mike Borisov. I'm a student here at GCC, and I just want to say this is a great honor to be here and work on making Glendale a more green and sustainable city. Can't wait.
Great. Well, thank you. We look forward to working with you. Next agenda item.
Next agenda item is for oral communications. Discussion is limited to items within the jurisdiction of the Sustainability Commission. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Sustainability Commission members may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The matter may be referred to staff for investigation and report. At this moment, we don't have any callers or speakers.
Okay, let's move on. Oh, actually, does anyone have any comments? Let's see.
I was going to say, could we go back to the prior item that that gives time for staff and commission comments?
We'll go back to agenda item 3, board member and staff comments.
Okay, does anyone have any comments on the commission? Okay.
So I first want to say welcome to the ex officio members. I believe now there are 3 Clarkies on the commission, myself included. So I just wanted to say welcome, and I'm excited that we have this opportunity for students to be part of the process, if you will. I remember when I started a small group called Coalition for Green Glendale. Really, the first opportunity that I had as a young adult was when the city had offered to me an option to start a community garden. So I was very fortunate to have that opportunity, and I'm glad that we're expanding on that and providing more opportunities for students to be engaged in the city process. So welcome. Don't be shy. You're here to speak up and have a voice on the commission. So if you have any questions or need any advice, please let us know. And then I did want to bring up, I know at the last commission meeting, I had requested that we agendize that the commission take a stand on an ordinance on drive-throughs and gas stations. I know that since that time, a motion or resolution, so maybe a staff can clarify if I'm mischaracterizing, but was introduced by council to pursue a drive-through moratorium. So I just wanted to raise that to the awareness of the commission. And I did ask that we agendize our recommendation at next month's meeting. So I'm hoping we can stay true to that timeline, unless council is moving towards making a decision sooner than that. And if staff needs more time to develop a report that council needs to see, I'm willing to wait longer. Otherwise, I'm hoping we can see this item next month.
So Commissioner Batri-Souf, you're right, the mayor brought that to City Council, and it's, I think they asked for a moratorium on drive-throughs while staff go away and do research into that matter. I'm still happy to bring back an information report, but if you prefer to wait until full staff report is done with other departments of the city, we can wait for that too. It's up to you.
Yeah, I guess I just want to make sure that the timing works where we chime in and make a recommendation. So if we're not going to get action item for next month's agenda, I would hate to see council make a decision between our next 2 commission meetings, if that makes sense. So if you guys are scheduling for council to hear that item after our next meeting, then I definitely want an action item at next month's commission meeting. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I just want to make sure, like, this isn't, I want to take action on it, so it should not be an information-only item. I want the commission to take a vote on it.
Yes,
Please.
yes, thank you, Alec. Yes, I support that as well, that we should definitely hear it as an action item before it goes to city council, since that's why we're here, basically, so.
Commission Chair, members of the commission, depending on the timing, and I don't have that information in front of me right now, it may require a special meeting in order to fulfill your request that the commission be able to provide an action, recommendation on the proposed moratorium.
Okay. I know they're dark this week and next, I believe, so that might help buy us some time, but, okay.
Do we know if it's the intention of staff that this item, do we have a general time frame for when this item could go to council?
That's why I said I
Yeah.
don't really have the data, because the moratoria are statutory, and so those timeframes, it has to be, the moratorium language itself has to be developed, the staff has to do the research and bring it back, and then they have to come back within 45 days. So it'd be essentially a temporary, and then direction is given. And if there are modifications to the zoning code for purposes of modifying that use, it would need to go to the planning commission. So there's a process that would need to go to prior to it coming, in the last instance, to the city council for approval. So that's as far as I can tell you right now. There are a lot of action items for the council before the end of the year, so I'm not quite sure where that will fit in at this point in time, but we will advise you, and like I said, it may require, depending on timing, coming to having a special meeting in order for the commission to hear it and to take an action on a recommendation.
Great, thank you. I had a comment. I spoke with the mayor a couple weeks ago, and we're both concerned about the drought and how it's not getting better anytime soon. And so I was hoping we could put on the agenda for the future to kind of dig deeper into the laundry to landscape program, make sure more people are aware of it, and to see like what can be done without a permit and what triggers needing a permit. And I know there's a program where that you get a rebate if it's a non-permitted one, and it's not clear what actually triggers needing a permit. And I think we should be promoting that a lot, given, like, for example, in Burbank, they're not going to be able to water for 2 weeks because something's being repaired with the water infrastructure, and that would be a disaster, I think. And if people at least have a little bit of an idea of how they can keep their shrubbery and trees alive during something like that, a heat wave especially, like we've been having, that would be great. So if anyone would be willing to second that.
Second.
Okay, thank you. And also, Mayor Kasakian had mentioned that he had recently visited the Theodore Payne Foundation and thought it would be a great thing if the Sustainability Commission could do some sort of field trip or retreat, some Brown Act compliant gathering of the commission. And so I said I would bring that up and see if there was some way we can do that, or maybe that's where we hold a meeting or something. But it's nearby in North Hollywood, and I'm ashamed to say I've never been there. So,
It's
I know,
it's
but I hear
fabulous.
wonderful
It's
things
really-
about
yeah,
it. But
yeah, and there are meeting areas outdoors, classroom areas.
We'll look into the propriety of having a meeting outside the jurisdiction of the city,
Oh,
which
yeah.
may be a limitation that we
Oh, right.
may not be able to
Yeah, I think it's
undertake.
LA.
I also wanted to, before we go on, I just got a text that the item on the drive-throughs is going to the city council on September 20th for direction.
okay, so we'll meet ahead of that. Good. Okay. Cool. Thank
Sorry,
you.
to clarify, direction is they would actually be making a motion. They would be,
Giving direction whether or not to initiate the moratorium.
got it. So then it would be appropriate for us to take action at the next commission meeting in September?
The commission would be giving a recommendation on whether or not a moratorium would be appropriate. So that is something certainly the commission could do, and there is a September meeting for the Sustainability Commission, so that could be agendized.
But if we agendize it for the next meeting, would we have, the staff reports and, analysis ready by that time?
No.
So we would be voting on something that hasn't been analyzed by staff.
So what we're intending to bring to the commission was, in regards to drive-through and gas station moratoriums, what has been happening, what's the landscape out there,
Okay.
what other cities have done,
Okay.
and just to give a background as to
Okay.
it, and then from that, the commission can decide with that background or that information
Okay.
what they'd like to see, and then pass that recommendation on to city council. But the full staff report regarding the moratorium, that will not be done at
Okay.
And I guess I wonder if do we want to wait to have our September meeting when the staff report has been finalized and have one special meeting in place of our regularly agendized September meeting? Or do we want to wait or not wait?
I think the timing works if at the end of September, the council is going to get direction. This isn't going to be ready for at least another couple of months. So I don't think we need to agendize it for the September, possibly for the October meeting, because if they're going to get direction late September, October, maybe even November, when full staff will be, the analysis will be ready.
Well, getting direction normally means staff is asked to prepare a draft ordinance for adoption, probably at a future
I
meeting.
think it could also be
right.
just could go and do a report or,
Yeah.
so,
I think it would be useful for them to have a recommendation before that, but a lot of it just hinges on when we could expect some sort of, talking points or something for our meeting. It's a month away, that's some amount of time. What do you think?
Jillian has thoughts.
Sure, if I could just provide a little bit of information about the moratorium process. So my understanding on the direction is whether or not staff should prepare the documentation for the implementation of a moratorium. And that would be brought back for authorization at that point. And once it's authorized, that sets statutory timeframes into motion, and that is the period of time during which staff will be preparing, undertaking research and preparing an ordinance, depending on the council's direction, to change the code as it pertains to whether and where drive-throughs are new drive-throughs or existing drive-throughs, whether they'll be whatever it might be. I don't want to speculate what the direction might be, but say, for example, the moratorium yields direction that no new drive-throughs be allowed in the city, and that would be a code change. That would need to go to the Planning Commission. And before it would be finalized, as I indicated, it would come to the City Council as an ordinance after it's been reviewed by the Planning Commission.
Question, if the timing doesn't work out, in between our monthly meetings, we can always have a special meeting, halfway between the month, and, we can voice our opinion or recommendation on the ordinance. So I don't think, we need to just, be satisfied with just the next meeting, or, what about the October meeting, what about November meeting? So if need be, we'll do a special meeting.
Yeah, I'd say if the commission is open-minded to that happening, that we are ready to come to a special meeting, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, my preference is there's enough for the September 1st meeting that we can have something to look at. Do you think that's feasible?
So for the agenda so far for the September 1st meeting, we were going to ask, hopefully with the new commissioner installed, we were going to work on the work plan for the commission. So that would be quite a lot of work. So that will work well if we focus on that for the September commission meeting. That gives the commissioners between now and then time to think about projects they want to work on and prioritize to develop into that work plan. So there will be plenty to do at the September meeting.
And so just real quick, Julian, so the September agenda item for council will just be for staff to be directed to craft the moratorium, and it'll then come back again to council to vote on the moratorium.
That's correct.
Okay. So it could be okay that this be agendized for October then, because we will be receiving what council has been given by staff. We will have even heard council comments, and then we can craft our recommendation in October. Does that make sense?
Maybe we need to split it. Initial, just the subject, the presentation, and then a month later, once the staff is more, what they need to prepare is more, baked, they can come back for a vote or next meeting. Maybe the September meeting will just be a presentation on the topic, because not all of us are up to speed on what that entails. And then, we can agendize it for the next meeting. But I'm okay with getting just an informational presentation, not necessarily one that we need to vote on.
Was anything shown to city council when they asked that be agendized before?
I believe just the mayor just brought it up at comment section.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, an informational, something like we've done in the past. First informational, then action later, so.
I mean, the reason why I've proactively pursued this is I understand the moratorium is kind of on a fast track process. The whole concept of the moratorium is to put things on hold as something is pursued at a later time. So we may not have the luxury of having a report item only for 1 month and then an action item for the next month. I feel like council is eager to take action on this. So I don't want to direct staff right now to say that we're okay with only getting a report item only, just because this schedule seems to be, we're unsure of when council is going to act on this. So I'm eager to take action. So when we're ready to do that, let's do that.
Well, if we hold a special meeting possibility in our pocket, then we're covered, right? If we, so.
Yeah. And thanks for being patient. Let this be a civics lesson for everybody that's listening on the city process and how things are agendized.
The sausage making of city
Yes,
government,
exactly.
right?
But I want to come back, Chair, if you don't mind, something Chair Borisov said to the ex officio members. None of us are know-it-all. None of us come here saying, I know everything that's going to come before this commission. So don't feel like you're too young or you're not knowledgeable enough on a topic. There might be a perspective that you'll bring to this meeting that we haven't thought of. So don't hold back. And if you read, a research or an article that says otherwise on a topic that, we're going to discuss at a meeting, feel free to bring it. Feel free to say, I'm glad, Chair Carton, you said this, but the research says otherwise. So feel free to challenge us. We want to be challenged. So don't hold back. Thank you.
Yes, and when the commissioners are invited to give comments at the beginning of the meeting, that includes you all as well. You're welcome to say something. So yes, we want you to get as much out of this, but also participate and be part of the process. So not having an official vote doesn't mean, you have to sit there quietly. So great. So were there any other comments?
I do have some.
Okay.
Okay. So just sort of mirroring what our chair said about drought, I do agree that we should try to get more information about the gray water systems and what sort of permitting and rebates and things. But I would also like to throw out something very aspirational. If I remember my statistics correctly, about 40% of the water consumed by single-family homes is for outdoor purposes. So it's quite high. I wonder if we can if we're going to have a moratorium on drive-throughs, let's think about a ban on grass, turf, unless watered by gray water. The whole concept of lawns it's a concept we imported from England. It's not native to the United States, and particularly out here in a semi-arid climate. I've been taking note of where I see lawns, and a lot have been converted to natural landscapes, but a lot have not. And then we have a very large, long parkway along Glen Oaks from the Burbank border over here to, I think, Bran. And it's got trees, but it's got grass. And grass, hopefully we're at least practicing grass clippings, which means just leave the clippings on the lawn after you mow rather than bagging them up and then having to compost them. But it seems like a project maybe we could do in conjunction with some student groups, Theodore Payne, something like that. It would be great to see native plants along there, along with the trees. The trees add shade. Grass just it's not that productive as far as bringing something to landscapes. It's more shrubs and other types of plants. So I just was, and that's miles on Glen Oaks. So I would just like to look into something like that. Could we phase out lawns unless they're watered with gray water, like a 5-year process, something like that? And what else? Oh, just back to the students. Thank you again. We're thrilled you're here. David, I hope I'm not tipping your hand that David's looking into a student council, because we had so many really excellent candidates, and we have a lot of projects where you just don't have sufficient staff to do those things. One that came to mind was something you talked about too, maybe the distribution of the food waste pails to the multifamily residents in Glendale, since I believe they're getting distributed to single family, but multifamily have to pick them up. It just seems to me like an unfair burden, especially given it's the private haulers that are providing those. I would hope that at least, if they couldn't go door to door, they could at least find some sites where people could go and pick them up, multiple sites distributed around the city. But I just think every additional step the resident has to take means one fewer person participating. So that was just an idea for one project, was to get those food waste pails out there so we can start diverting more of our organics, and then with the lawns also. But, and I know there are a lot of projects that if we have a student council put together that could, generate. And I want to say, we picked these candidates specifically because of their own personal actions. I think we had a citizen science project. I know you're like a devotee of walking, biking, public transportation. So thank you again. Oh, yes, thank you.
Hey, thank you. So are we ready to move on? No more further comments? Okay. Next agenda item, please.
We have agenda item for oral communications. I read through the agenda item. We also have a caller on the line now for agenda item for oral communications.
Okay, let's take the caller then.
Hello. Hello, Craig.
Hello.
Hi, Craig. You are live for agenda item 4, oral communications. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Good evening, commissioners and staff. My name is Craig Cadwallader, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Surfrider Foundation South Bay chapter. And I wanted to give an update of things that we've been working on in the greater area around Glendale, which includes a number of foodware ordinances, and we're also suggesting a single-use plastic bag ordinance that fills in the gaps that's not preempted by SB 270. And I wanted to mention that it's been an absolute pleasure to work with Sustainability Officer Jones to discuss elements that I've compiled from the best of the best ordinances around the state. And to give you an idea, right now, there, to my best research, are 154 and a half plastics ordinances, and that half is the city of Rancho Palos Verdes passed their first reading unanimously for an ordinance in support of AB 1276, with, I expect, the second reading and adoption at their next meeting. But I'm working with the cities of Burbank, Alhambra, Pasadena, Beverly Hills, and even Goleta, all with similar ordinances that represent the best practices compiled from ordinances that have been adopted around the state. And of those 154 ordinances that I'm aware of, I've read them all, have copies of all of them. I, as an exercise, looked at the population that those ordinances cover. And right now, based on 2019 statistics, that covers 17.8 million people in the state of California who are likely living in cleaner environments because of these ordinances. And that includes 141 cities and 13 counties. And I've only looked at the unincorporated population of those counties. And that's roughly 45% of the population of the state of California. So we are fortunate in the state to be having a cleaner, healthier environment because of these. We're also trying to recommend something very similar for the Hollywood Burbank Airport. So we're working on all those. I have spoken to Councilmember Brotman and Councilmember Asatrian and about an ordinance suggested that I provided, and I hope that it goes through, and I hope that Glendale will set the bar for surrounding cities and that everybody can be on the same page with the same ordinances and enjoy a healthier, cleaner, plastic-free environment. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. I always remain available to help in any way possible. I have terabytes of data I can supply, probably too much data, but I do appreciate helping, and I know the benefit that these ordinances actually can produce enhanced profits for businesses. So we're hoping that will go forward, and it'll be a win-win-win type of situation. So thank you again for allowing me to address the commission tonight, and I hope this will successfully go forward in the city and set the bar for everybody else. So thank you again.
Thank you, Craig.
I would just like to comment that Craig really is sort of a amazing resource for anything to do with single-use, anything plastics in particular, though. So he's always available. He knows all the ordinances up and down the state. So anything for plastics, he's a great resource. I did want to just add a couple things what we're doing in Los Angeles, just to let everybody know. We're working on the CEQA process now. The goal is to ban EPS, expanded polystyrene or foam foodware and products this year, or the ordinance at least will hopefully be adopted in December. We're going through the process. That's our goal. We're also, we have adopted a zero waste events and facilities program. It'll be a zero waste ordinance for events that are held on city property and that are permitted or organized by the city, but also zero waste facilities. So we put together, I'm happy to share the information, we put together a massive checklist of things that every office should do, but our big focus for events is we're going to be banning certain types, if all goes as planned, banning certain types of foodware, like we have large festivals like Lotus Festival where you've got thousands of people, because so much of the foodware that is handed out there is not recyclable. So we're going to mandate that it be compostable primarily. So we know that'll cause somewhat of an uproar because most paper cups have liners in them, and those are not compostable now. So we will have to see a change in foodware. We're going to be collecting food waste, but we're also going to try some pilots with reusable foodware too, where we may bring in third parties to offer, provide the foodware, pick it up, sanitize it, or the city may engage with some party supply companies to do something of that sort. But just we're trying to avoid disposables to the maximum extent possible. And we're also going to require all the food vendors to offer half portions, a la carte options, child portions, because we know food waste is just a horrible problem. So it'll be fun. I'll be glad to share everything, all the stumbles along the way, and hopefully some successes. So thank you.
Thank you. So no other callers? Okay.
No other colors. Next agenda item is 5 action items. Agenda 5A, land acknowledgement for Sustainability Commission. Motion for the Sustainability Commission to start commission meetings and events with a land acknowledgement statement.
So, Chairperson Werner and Commissioners, as you know, Elizabeth brought this to the Commission a couple of weeks ago, And you provided a little bit feedback and direction. So now she's come in front of the commission with a motion. I think this is a wonderful motion and a wonderful step that the commission should take. And yeah, I'd like Elizabeth to take it away.
Thank you. So this was originally brought forward to the commission at the May 5th commission meeting as an information report. This presentation is similar to what was presented then, but I'll provide a summary to refresh you regarding land acknowledgements. A land acknowledgement is, acknowledging the traditional indigenous inhabitants of the land. So for Glendale, the indigenous inhabitants of our area are the Gabrielino Tongva people. And by doing land acknowledgements, it's an effort to recognize the indigenous past, present, future, and to understand our place within that relationship and to acknowledge the history that's been here before originally Glendale became Glendale. And by doing that, it allows us to show respect for the history of the area, the people of the area, correct stories and practices that erase this history, but also to acknowledge that this isn't just history. These people continue to live and thrive today and be stewards of the land. And this is an important practice in that by doing land acknowledgements, it's one way for us to remember and acknowledge the history of a place, but it's also a sign of respect for the indigenous communities within an area, and it's a way of helping to rematriation or bring them back and connect them with the indigenous lands. And in doing so, it's also a step in decolonization and kind of acknowledging the history that did happen here. So many groups throughout Canada and New Zealand and even Australia is a very common practice, but it's expanded in the US. It's something that businesses, educational institutions, nonprofits, even local governments do. For instance, we have Microsoft does it. The Sustainability Office for the LA County does it. It was started by the former Chief Executive Officer, Gary Giroux, but since his retirement has been continued by the Office of Sustainability for the LA County. We see sport teams, UCLA has an acknowledgement, and the city of Glendale's history and acknowledgement has happened before. There was an acknowledgement celebration over in the Verdugo Hills where Tongva Peak was dedicated to the Gabrielino Tongva community. That was done in the past. So going forward, what's involved in by doing a land acknowledgement statement is it's an actual statement that we can start with meetings and events that acknowledges the past, present, and future of the indigenous people of the land in which the meeting is taking place. And by doing land acknowledgements, I like to think it's a helpful way to continue to remind ourselves on how can we take actions and support indigenous communities and other communities that have been marginalized and make sure that they're included into the political and development processes. So as a sample land acknowledgement statement for the commission to take, we could start off meetings with the chairperson, whoever is designated, to start off with a statement such as, we would like to acknowledge that we are holding this meeting in the city of Glendale on the traditional land of the Gabrielino Tongva people. We would like to pay our respects to the elders, both past and present, and the Tongva communities who continue to be stewards of this land. This statement can be amended and changed as our understanding of the history and the communities here grows, and actually be amended as the commission wishes. So if you'd like, the commission could take a motion to make an action to have that sustainability commission meetings and events start with the land acknowledgement such as this, or the commission can decide to not implement the land acknowledgement practice, or the commission can take an action to do any other alternative.
Okay, thank you. So do we have does anyone have any questions, first of all, from the presentation?
I was just going to make a motion to trigger the discussion.
Question regarding the Gabrielino Tongva tribe. Is it a federally recognized tribe? If not, why not?
It is, I believe it is not federally recognized, and actually many tribes are recognized by the state of California, but not federally. As to why not it is not recognized, don't know at the moment, could find out, but it is, I believe, recognized by the state, but not federally.
Okay. And this is, separate from the land acknowledgement statement. Do we have a plaque, a monument, something in the city of Glendale that recognizes the original inhabitants of the land.
Yes, if I go back.
So we're
yes.
one of the monuments on there.
Right here at the top of Tongva Peak, which is in the Verdugo Hills. So the area such as you can climb up there from Brand Park or from like La Crescenta Park. At the top of that hill, Tongva Peak, is this plaque that you'll see here at the bottom left that is dedicated and acknowledges the Tongva Gabrielino communities. And there was a dedication party that the city held, I believe, back in 2003, that it was included in the staff report.
Tongva Peak.
And I had a question, are any of the other boards or commissions doing this land acknowledgement?
To my knowledge in our initial review, not that I believe not. However, I do know that in the past, the city has open events with land acknowledgements. For instance, at the Glendale Narrows Walk event that happened in April, there was a land acknowledgement ceremony that occurred there.
Yeah, I also remember one when the area, that new park, the Dumasian Park area, the old winery thing that they opened there. The name escapes me, but the new park that has the facility and nature exhibit and so on, that I remember them doing it there, so. Okay, thank you. So can I have a motion so we can get the discussion rolling?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Second?
Okay, so any discussion? I remember when it came as a report, everybody was in favor of it, so I thought there might be. So maybe the lack of discussion means everyone's generally in favor of it. Does anyone have any concerns? I thought the proposed language sounded reasonable, So are we ready to go for a vote then? Okay, we'll call.
Roll call, we have Chairperson Werner.
Yes?
We have Vice Chair Pinkerton. Commissioner Bartrosov.
Yes.
Commissioner Congian. And Commissioner Kartunian.
Yes.
It's passed. The motion is passed.
I get to read more at the beginning of the meeting.
So just a question for Gillian. Do we have to amend the
Yes, what we'll do is we'll bring back the resolution, it's Article 6, meeting agenda and procedure that sets forth the order of business, so that we'll include that within the order of business.
Okay, so next agenda item, please.
Next agenda item is 5B, Environmental Preferable Purchasing. Motion, the Sustainability Commission recommend to City Council to amend Purchasing Policy, Chapter 3, Policy 3-11, Section L2 of the Administrative Policy Manual to remove Recycled, Reusable, and Recyclable Products Policy and replace with Environmental Preferable Purchasing Policy.
So good evening, Chairperson Werner and the Sustainability Commission. So this is the second time we've come back to the Commission on this particular subject. We provided an extensive report as part of the package. So I'm just going to do a presentation today that's going to highlight some of the key aspects and to highlight some of the responsibilities required to implement such a program. At the previous commission meetings and at the previous city council meetings, city council and commission members had a number of comments of items that they would like to see involved to see part of the environmental preferable purchasing policy. So we've tried to include those. We understand that everything that was asked for may not be in here, and there's a reason for that. We want to grow this program organically over time so we can really embed it within the organization. So as Elizabeth said, the ask is for the Commission to vote on a motion recommending that to City Council that we replace what's currently in the Administrative Policy Manual with a more comprehensive environmental preferable purchasing policy. Next. Thank you. So what are the goals? So, sorry, back one, please. So why do we want to do this? There's a number of reasons. First of all, City of Glendale is a large organization. It's a billion-dollar organization with significant purchasing power. In order for that, we have lots of goods and services that are supplied into the organization. So we have an opportunity to leverage that purchasing power to see how we can green up those goods and services that are provided into the organization. Another reason for we want to have this policy is to be able to provide staff guidance on best procurement practices, so how they can go about procuring the right goods and services. And we really want to improve our overall environmental performance. We feel tackling the supply chain is a way to do it. We can address a number of issues such as greenhouse gas emissions. And also organizations such as City of Glendale, such as other organizations that have environmental preferable purchasing policies. The more and more these organizations that have that, the more and more the market responds to that and can create those goods and services that meet those green requirements. Next, please. So what are the goals? Again, the goals are fairly simple and fairly obvious, but to increase the purchasing spend on environmentally preferable goods and services, procure products and services in a cost-effective manner that advance the achievement on energy and environmental performance goals. We want to be able to establish city-specific standards, policies, and programs, things that are transparent, that everybody can see how the program works, what's needed to comply with the program. And then also some of the goals are obviously to comply with state requirements, and particularly we're talking about SB 1383 to make sure that we can meet those purchasing requirements and what the city has to do for that in terms of paper, mulch, and compost. Next. So who would this policy apply to? So it would apply to all city departments and employees, but also all our vendors, contractors, grantees for all products and services provided to the city. And it's going to be responsible of employees to institute sustainability practices when writing specifications, evaluating bids, and making other purchasing decisions. The goal of doing this is to provide staff training and tools so they can effectively implement this policy going forward. Next, please. So how do we go about doing this? How do we make sure we can effectively implement an EPP policy that will take effect and that will meet the goals as outlined? As I said earlier, we have, I think, the opportunity to grow the program organically. And this work starts by using the established standards that are out there that people can easily follow and develop these best practices for staff. So examples are utilizing the US EPA's comprehensive procurement guidelines that have established minimum recycled content for a number of product categories. Utilize verified third-party environmental product declarations, such as Green Seal and everything, where that work has been done by third parties to certify the environmental performance of those products. So it makes it easier for people to say, okay, we're going to choose this product because it has environmental performance, but it also meets the requirements of what that product needs to do. And then finally, specifications, where appropriate, containing EPR mandates, requiring vendors to provide take-back collection, recycling, disposal of products at their cost. We need to start thinking about people designing products not to be thrown away, but to be recycled and reused, and going through the EPR process, or encouraging the EPR process, encourages manufacturers to do that. Next. And again, where those standards or may not exist, to set like a minimum set of attributes that should be used to determine whether a product is environmentally preferable, and outlined in front of you are a number of those attributes that we would build in to the EPP policy that staff would have to look at when looking at product, goods and services to buy into the city. Next. So again, a key thing with implementing such a policy is to identify responsibilities, what divisions, what departments, and what staff's involvement will be in carrying out that policy. So obviously we have a purchasing division, and purchasing the city is kind of fairly decentralized up to a certain point, a certain dollar amount, and then after that it becomes more centralized. So we want the purchasing division to provide guidance to staff to specify environmentally preferable products. Also, purchasing division has the opportunity to establish price preference policies. So, for example, they may say you can buy product A, and if it's 5% the cost of a comparable product, as long as it's green, the city staff are still allowed to buy that. And then work with agencies that have been working on these issues in the past. For example, currently, through purchasing, we work with Staples.com, and our purchasing departments work with Staples that when you go into Staples, only buy certain products, like paper products, think that the first products that come up are those products that are SB 1383 compliant. So we are working with the vendors to make sure that staff do have this information. But again, it's to codify this information within the administrative policy manual more than it currently exists. Next, please. One back, sorry. Oh, no, sorry, you're right. City department shall ensure employees, contractors, and purchasers use environmentally preferable purchasing products whenever they're cost effective. We've talked about these a little bit, but make sure they have recycled materials, they remanufacture products, eliminate, reduce toxicity as much as possible. And again, we just talked a little bit earlier on today about the drought ribbon, so making sure that we have energy and water conservation equipment as much as possible. And then making sure any contracted services, such as landscaping services, try and act in a much sustainability manner as possible. And then implement our own cost and waste reduction practices. In talking to our purchasing division, for them it's like, how can we, instead of buying one product many times, is to buy that product in bulk, have it available through a warehousing system. This is much more efficient for us to do that. Less transportation, less packaging and everything. So how can we be more effective in the way we buy products and services? Next, please. Key to this is going to be record keeping. So departments will ensure employees follow the EPP program by tracking their EPP spend. They'll have to track procurement, they have to collect that proof of purchase, and then annually that information will be sent up through the Sustainability Office with support of purchasing and other departments to start preparing annual reports. We're already going to have to do this as part of our annual report to Car Recycle on our organics and waste purchasing program, so it's just expanding that record keeping to make sure that we have that information available to us. Next. So yeah, as mentioned at the beginning, we'd like to establish this as a one-year pilot program because that enables us to do the employee training, develop all those checklists and procedures that we need for us to effectively implement this program, but also give us the opportunity to review the program in 12 months, identify areas of improvement and implement those areas of improvement, and then finally report back to City Council how we've done in terms of dollars spent on green goods and services and how the program is being implemented within the organization. So that is it, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
Go ahead, Vice Chair Pinkerton.
Oh, thanks very much for that presentation. I've worked in this arena quite a bit, as you know, so a couple comments. Do you have a clear-cut default to the EPP version of a product for this one-year pilot?
So sorry, can you?
So do you have is there a clear-cut policy that if there is an EPP product out there, you have to default to the EPP? For example, you have to buy recycled content copy paper versus copy paper with no recycled content?
So I think we're following, if price and performance are equal, we buy the environmental preferable product.
Okay.
Well, you mentioned that 5% threshold or something too. Is that across the board, or does it depend on the product category?
And so that would depend. Purchasing will work in the different product categories to see where it's available to do that. So.
My observation from having assisted private businesses with this through Californians Against Waste and at the city, if you don't have a default, as long as somebody's checking, it'll stay together. But the minute there's no one overseeing all the elements of the program, if you don't have a default, it just gradually, organically falls apart over time. I think you just need a clear cut. These are the core list of this is the core list of products. You shall buy the EPP version. LA had a price preference too, but the buyers are so trained to go to low price. I never saw it implemented. I only saw it implemented once for curbside recycling bins like 30 years ago. They're so reluctant, and we had to have a general manager just said, no, I'm not buying curbside bins unless they have recycled plastic content. And that was the only time that I'm aware that it was ever used. So I just don't find it, it's a nice gesture, but I don't find it implemented very much in real life. The word biodegradable, I'm trying to delete that out of LA's materials, because what's biodegradable? If you throw a used paper towel on the street, yeah, it's biodegradable, it'll fall apart, but if it goes to landfill, you actually don't want it to biodegrade. So biodegradable to me is quite often used in a greenwashing manner, so I'm very cautious about using that term.
So you prefer the word like compostable or something?
Yeah,
or-
more specifically like compostable, because then you know exactly the circumstances, you know, the parameters under which that happens. I know I see people at the office that buy biodegradable pet waste bags, and I'm like, well, why? They're going in the trash. You know, this is not a product that's going to get littered on the street. Does the city buy most of its toner cartridges, its copier paper from Staples all through one contract, or do you have separate contracts for those?
I do not know 100%, but I can find out and get back to you on that.
Okay. I think it's easier for a small city to use one vendor to the maximum extent you can. And do you have a warehouse system now, or you do? Okay.
Yeah, 3GWP.
Okay. So the only last point I would make too, having struggled with EPP reporting for many years, I started going to the vendors about 4 years ago, and I just said, because every single purchasing contract has a clause in there that they have to give us quarterly sales reports, financial reports, you know, we sold you X number of reams of copier paper of this size. I would put all that reporting on us on the vendor and let them, you know, produce that, make sure they give you the specs every time they do report, because I found out there were a lot of things LA was buying that had EPP attributes that actually not been specified, but were in the products, and we only found out about it because we got the reports from the vendors. So I would just say consider easing the burden on your staff and make your vendors do that, because especially for your 1383 record-keeping requirements, you know, and AB 9392, I think it's going to be an easier way to go. So those are the comments. Yeah, but I would really, I'm available to do training on this if you want. I do this all the time, but I would highly recommend a default, just a list of 20 products. You have to buy the recycled version, and then your low price comes in. You've got 2 vendors of copier paper, and that's where you do the price comparison between the 2 recycled versions versus recycled, non-recycled. So I just think a default's easier way to go, because then it's typically your end user departments that set the specs for these things, but I just find it easier for purchasing staff to execute it if there's no question, if it's less of a gray area. Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
I had a question. As a construction specification writer, I'm constantly looking for the greenest product I have, the possible lowest VOC, things like that. So does this program also cover things like for maintaining the buildings, like the paintings and coatings and low emitting carpet and things like that?
Yes, so that would be part of choosing those products and services that have low toxicity, low VOCs. So yes, that would be part of that.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and one of the reasons I look for those kinds of products too is I'm trying to help, steer the market in that direction, because there are a lot of companies that are, a little slower than others about, having full lines of Green Guard Gold certified products or floor score or what have you. So great, so I'm glad to hear that. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, yes?
One thing that I would recommend is, first of all, it's a great idea to put the burden on the vendors. They have an incentive, to sell you the product, and they should do the work. But we need to also do research on a normal year, because the last couple of years have not been normal consumption years. We need to establish a baseline, maybe 2019, to say, in 2019, this is what was purchased. That way, if we do move the needle, we don't know what we moved the needle on. I mean, we feel good about ourselves. All of a sudden, if X percentage of the purchases are, compliant with this, but we don't know what we moved it from. So I would highly recommend picking a typical normal year, perhaps 2018 or 2019, because anything beyond that.
Yeah, that's a good point,
It's
yeah.
getting weird. The last few years, there's some products that were overused, including, hand wipes and sanitizing lotion, but there's other products, including printer cartridges, that were not used as much because people were at home and they thought twice about printing it on their home printer. So they instead saved it on PDF. So that would be my recommendation, establish a baseline based on a normal year.
Yeah, that's a great idea. A lot of companies or entities are baselining things on 2019 because of that, so totally makes sense.
I'm sorry, I forgot one comment. I think we all probably get things in the mail, door hangers, other literature from the city. If I could strongly encourage that the legend printed on recycled paper come back into usage. That was common 25 years ago, and you just don't see it that often anymore. And it's a good educational tool. Just put that right on there. If you've got space, print it on recycled paper, post-consumer content. And I do want to give kudos to the city. I think you just went ahead with the contract for billing paper, billing services, printing with recycled paper, which is very unusual, which is surprising to me, but you usually don't find billing paper with recycled content. So I say kudos to the city for doing that. But yeah, I would just highly recommend if you could put that legend on the things. Do you have an interior, do you have an inside print shop, or do you do? Okay, so yeah, if you could talk to them about putting that in, if you have an employee graphic designer, just make sure they're aware of that. But I think it's a good educational thing, and it's just not common anymore. Thank you.
Yeah, you could even throw in a little QR code that says, find out what else we're doing to green Glendale, and so, So, yes, did you have some questions?
So if I may direct the Commission's attention to the report, under 7.6, Contracted Landscaping and Services, I was wondering if the Commission would consider implementing the specific word xeriscaping. Perhaps the text in the 7.6 is descriptive of that practice, but by implementing this word, I believe that it'll be a good way to spread awareness of that specific sustainable landscaping practice, as well as encouraging individuals reading this to maybe look into xeriscaping contractors for their own homes and spreading the word itself.
Yes, definitely. I think that's one of the big missing pieces in the whole water reduction strategies, because most people just don't have the knowledge of what's a water-wise plant. Just because something sort of looks like a cactus doesn't mean it doesn't need water, or the ideas of planting plants together that have similar water needs, and the state of California even has a website you can go to find out the by species of what it's like WUCOLS, WUCOLS, I think it's the acronym, but so I use that when I'm reviewing landscape plans and so on. So there's just a lot of resources out there for making those green decisions for purchasing and maintain, whether it's your lawn or, household items or so on. And I think we just need to make people more aware of all those. A lot of work has gone into them. There's federal ones, state ones, nonprofit ones. There's no shortage of it. It's just that doesn't always, occur to folks to, look these things up before they make a decision like that. But yeah, xeriscaping is certainly, we've seen a lot of really bad lawn designs lately, where they just kind of, throw a bunch of rock or something and a couple of plants here and there with no design, so that creates a really bad aesthetic and kind of gives the whole water-wise gardening a bad name. And a lot of us live on hillsides. I mean, I live on a 50% slope. I can't just go, oh, I don't need grass anymore. I mean, then there'd be a mudslide, my house would, wind up in the street or something. So we need ways to educate people where they can make those kinds of decisions or get free advice on that. I know the city's had a few workshops and things like that, but I just think that needs to go much wider and be something that people can access more readily. But
Maybe in conjunction with Earth Day next year, there are a lot of native landscaping tours in the greater LA area, and if we had a local one, because there's some outstanding landscapes around here. You know, and it could just be a drive-by thing where you print the addresses, you don't have to have docents or anything, just drive by, but
yeah, that would be great. Like Glendale Historical has, different tours and things. Of course, you pay and you sign up and all that sort of thing. But something, like a map of well-designed, I could think of a few off the top of my head of just, the yards you slow down to look at because they're so beautiful, and yet it's all native plantings, so it is possible to have something that's pleasant to look at, that's water-wise. It's just most of them I've seen are not, so.
And you could go, there's so many homeowners associations here that could help you, but also the Historical Society, I would be, you could go solicit help from the homeowners association, but the Historical Society also is a good idea, so. And maybe Theodore Payne might know, if they have done any landscaping work here.
Yeah, we could do like Hollywood and have the red double-decker bus too.
There we go. Come on down. Or maybe a bicycle tour of Waterwise Gardens. But that'd be a fun thing to let people self-register on the website. Would you like your home to be, there's a lot of people I'm sure are proud of their nice home, nice landscaping, but, okay. So this is an action item, right? So we need,
I had some
sorry.
comment.
Okay,
Yeah,
go
no
ahead.
worries. So I like the intent of the policy. I'm more curious about like how this is going to be implemented. So I know in the presentation you mentioned there being staff training. I guess I'm curious, like, how does this trickle down to like a fleet manager who's maintaining vehicles, or a landscape contractor who's using gas-powered equipment, or somebody in the office ordering paper? Because the way that, like, the language that I'm seeing is that we are encouraging folks to use these type of products so long as quality is not compromised, that's cost effective, et cetera. But, and I think I've mentioned this in past meetings, most of these things are in the definition that we've created for ourselves is not cost effective. Things are much more expensive if they're more environmentally friendly, generally speaking. I tried to do a quick glance at Staples' website. A regular ream of paper is $8, but if you want 50% recycled, it jumps up to $15. So any department head can look at that and say, this is not cost effective, therefore I'm not going to comply with this policy, and I'm perfectly within my right to do that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, I would like to see some kind of implementation guideline for the department heads to deploy this type of policy. And as part of the pilot, I know you mentioned receiving receipts. I'm curious about how that works. Like, would you only be getting the receipts that qualify under the policy? And do you then see what percentage of their total receipts make up what falls under EPP policy? Like, we should create some kind of metric that we can follow over time. This should definitely be part of the climate action plan to say, okay, we want to increase our EPP compliance by X% every year. So the pilot that you have set up for yourself, does it allow for that kind of tracking? Like, are we able to, over time, encourage more and more implementation of this policy? Or is it simply, Public Works spent $100 this year and that's all we know? That kind of thing.
So, as to Commissioner Cartoonian too, establishing that baseline year whatever it was, what did we spend on these different product areas? And then, yes, to your point, we need to know across the board what we spent in a paper category in was hand towels, was it bleach, non-bleach and everything. So we're going to have to get all that data. And I think that's why we want to approach it as that first year, is that pilot, to make sure that we can get all that data and have access to that data. And once we do, be able to say, okay, in these categories, we can meet these procurement programs much easier because the prices are the same and everything. I don't think we have all that data at our fingertips right now. So that's another reason for trying to develop this policy, to make sure we get that data.
Yeah.
But in terms of what you said, I think to Commissioner Pinkerton's point earlier on, it's like, what set of default product category you'd have to buy the green version, so recycled oil or whatever it is. We'd have to identify those, and then that would take away the decision making to an extent from the individuals. Like, okay, this is what we're going to have to buy, and then when we do the analysis, the cost analysis, we'd have to bring that to council, and then they'd have to say, okay, it's going to cost us this much. We're prepared to spend that as a city.
Yeah, and as far as the receipts go, is it your intent that we are tracking like the percentage of the total purchasing power of a department? Like, will you be able to say that X percent of their total budget goes towards EPP compliant products?
So that would be the intent, because that's the only way we're going to say what we're buying and how we're going to set our goals.
Yeah.
Buy more projects, more
I
products and services.
I want to make that distinction, because if we're looking at raw numbers,
Right.
The city's constantly growing. Obviously, Public Works is going to spend more money next year than this year. So I want to make sure we're not just comparing numbers, we're doing a percentage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. And just generally, I hope that we can develop a policy with more teeth, because as it's currently portrayed, there's a lot of wiggle room and a lot of opportunity for us to not comply with the intent of the policy.
Just a few more comments, if I may, about that. That's why I always strongly advocate for default. Just if it's on this list of products or commodities, you have to buy the EPP version. One area where there's a high amount of resistance is from fleet managers. I brought in a fleet manager from Edison many years ago to talk to city utility, because they were like, oh, the refined oil invalidates your warranties, which is a myth. It does not invalidate your warranties. And he said it took him, I think, 3 years to convert the entire fleet, because they had to do a lot of extra testing, because the mechanics simply did not believe that the refined oil was not going to ruin the engines. So it was a long-term project, and these are API certified products, American Petroleum Institute, but they just, so that's one comment. The other comment, maybe for Jillian, and I'm researching this in LA, can we mandate, I don't know if you're going to use a point-based system for evaluating bids, but can you consider or mandate domestic content, especially in paper products? I had a situation many years ago where I found somebody purchasing Indonesian paper, which is absurd, because this particular paper company has notorious environmental practices, but then you're shipping your paper 9,000 miles when they're domestic and North American manufacturers. So I don't know if you're going to use a point-based system, but if you can give points for domestic products, or just say they have to be domestic in some categories. What was the other thing? Oh, also, for small city, have you piggybacked onto other governmental contracts like the county or city of LA's? I know there usually is a fee for doing so, and I don't know if it's based on the total buy, but LA County has, LA City piggybacking on the county's contract for copier paper, because it was better than what we were getting, and it was all domestic, and it actually addressed the bleaching specs too. So just a thought. I don't know if, I know a lot of entities don't like paying that fee, but rather than trying to execute, if you don't have a big staff, execute contracts on your own, sometimes it's easier just to go piggyback on somebody else's. And I've worked with Office Depot for many years. They give excellent reports where they give, here's everything you purchase, here's the percentage that we qualify as green. And they compare the dollars, different metrics are built into it. It's a very helpful report.
Well, to your point, there are programs that allot points, like LEED or or the Collaborative for High Performing Schools, if you buy within 500 miles of the location. So just as a metric, 500 seems to be a pretty common number. Some are even smaller, but yeah, it would be interesting to see like how far away some of these products are coming in from. And some agencies, municipalities and so on have a preference for, locally purchased items, especially for projects that are being built with public funds. So, and since anything Glendale buys is being bought with public funds, it's probably not a bad idea. But did you have anything you'd like to add, Mike? No? No? Okay. Just want to make sure with the mask, I'm not sure if we're trying to speak or not. So, okay, very good. Did anyone else have any comments?
I just want to thank you for that great feedback, and I'll be reaching out to you, Jennifer.
Yeah,
So,
anytime to talk about it. I know all the barriers. I've run into all of them, so.
Was this an action item? Do we actually need to vote?
Yes,
on
Mr.
this?
Chair, there's a motion
Okay.
for the commission.
Okay. Can we have could you read the
Sure.
actual motion?
Yes, it's that the Sustainability Commission recommends the City Council approve an amendment of the city's purchasing policy, and that's within our administrative policy manual. It specifies Chapter 3, Policies 3-11, Section L2, to remove the recycled, reusable, and recyclable products policy and replace it with a new environmental preferable purchasing policy.
Okay. Would someone like to move that?
No question, if I may. The recommendations that were made in terms of, for example, the default, would that be incorporated in this? Or is this, the suggestions that were made by my colleague, would they not take effect with this ordinance? Is it just want to understand that.
so when we write and prepare a report for City Council, and we'll take the recommendations from the Sustainability Commission and put that in their report for City Council, and they'll give us direction of how they want to proceed from there.
Perfect. And in that case, I'll make a motion.
Okay. Second?
Can I make an amended motion?
Friendly amendment?
Friendly amendment? Okay. I can see commencing with this program if it has a default mechanism, if it has a list of core products that we default to, and if it mandates vendor reporting.
I'm sorry, I got two. It's just sometimes a little hard to read here with everyone's mask. So the default provision, the mandate vendor reporting, what was the
And a
third?
core list of products to which the default applies.
Core list.
Yes. So things like copier paper, toner cartridges, carpet.
So it would be the statement or the motion that was read, but then adding on to that with the Sustainability Commission's recommendations that they also consider doing these items.
So that would be the amended motion.
Yeah,
You'd have
works
to
for me.
Move it
Works for me
and
as well.
second it.
Yes. Yeah, so,
I'll move to make a motion.
yeah, no, I will re-second. Okay, could we have roll call, please?
Chairperson Werner,
Yes.
Vice Chair Pinkerton,
Yes.
Commissioner Bartrosov,
Yes.
Commissioner Kartunian,
Yes.
Commissioner Kanjian. The motion passed. Next up on the agenda is item 6, Sustainability Office Updates.
While Elizabeth is getting the presentation ready, I'd say it's been wonderful to have Elizabeth come on board. It's helped us become a lot more productive, and we've had a busy summer so far. We're looking forward to an even busier autumn and even busier next year. But that being said, go ahead.
For the updates, we wanted to share that last month after the commission meeting, the July 2022 newsletter went out regarding water conservation. If you didn't know, it's on our website, and we have a link on our Instagram page. It was sent out to 239 recipients with a 38% open rate and a 7% click-through rate. both of which are above government standards according to MailChimp. So it's been performing pretty well for an email newsletter. And we're trying to work on the next one in either September or October. This one's focused on water conservation. The next one will probably focus more on waste and organics recycling and using your questions and comments from the previous commission into an FAQ for people to better understand why our organics recycling is the way it is. But feel free to share it if you'd like. Next up, we are working on launching a podcast. We have a survey out for the members of the public to submit their ideas on what the podcast should be called, what should we talk about, length, etc. The link is up here along with the QR code. We've been sharing it at community events. It's on our Instagram and coming soon to our website. We're in the process of updating our website page.
So we'd encourage members of the Sustainability Commission to be involved in that podcast and help us with subject areas and to get your expertise.
And fill out the survey and tell us what you think it should be called and we should talk about. And also, we are also just starting to put together a What's Your Wish for a Greener Glendale. We've been piloting this at a couple tabling events, and it's a cute little postcard where children and adults can draw and write their wish of what a greener Glendale is. Right now, we sent it out to a couple of libraries, and we're using it to collect feedback in regards for the Transformative Climate Communities grant application for next year. The survey is on our Instagram. It was shared on my Glendale channels, and it is coming to the Sustainability Office website page. You can find the link there and the QR code, but if anyone in the public wants to fill out the form, they can find these cards at some Glendale libraries and City Hall, and then there's the QR code and link here to take a more in-depth survey. And we encourage you to take the survey, share it around, and if you'd like cards, we can give you some after the meeting to share around in your community groups. And in terms of, this has been a busy month. Last month was kind of busy. In the beginning, we have done 2 outreach events. We did cruise night, which we were there all night and had a lot of great attendance and a lot of people coming up, asking questions and filling out the cards. We also attended National Night Out, where we started having a raffle for the first time with great attendance from kids nonstop wanting to participate in the raffle, which is a wheel that they spin, and depending on how many points, they get a number of raffle tickets, and they have to answer sustainability-related questions. So it was actually a very good event in terms of educating children and their adults with them, and very, very popular that day. And even Councilmember Brotman came over and had some fun with the kids. But we wanted to ask if you have any other community outreach events. Does the Sustainability Commissioners want to participate and come out and to be at these tabling events and meet with the community? We can let you know about what events are coming up, and you can tell us if you'd like to attend. And also, if you have any events coming up with your community groups, we'd be more than happy to attend and share what the Sustainability Office is doing and do any education or outreach. So we're love for you to attend the next events. We'll be better about sharing it, and we'd love to attend any of your events. Okay, David.
I'd like to point out I was wearing the Hawaiian shirt, so just... So we've pretty much come to the end of our CAP consultant selection process. We interviewed 3 consultant firms last week. Out of the 9 that applied or that sent in request for proposal responses. Due to the responses received, we actually asked them to go back and provide us further information regarding the CEQA analysis in terms of being able to make a defensible cap going forward. We thought it was necessary for them to provide us more information, so they're providing us costings and scope of works for that extra work that we've asked them to do. We've received all that information in. We're analyzing it internally, and we're going to have a meeting on the 11th of next week, on the 11th, to hopefully make our final selection at that point. So just want to provide that feedback. And as you know, we're working with a consultant on the building electrification reach codes. The consultant are providing us all the outreach materials, so we can begin that outreach process this week. So if you have any organizations and business organizations that you think we should reach out to regarding building electrification, please let us know, and we'll put that as part of our outreach strategy. And then, sorry, I did forget to mention this earlier. We do want to bring a report to the September 1st, 2020, September 1st Sustainability Commission meeting about what we're going to include in that REACH code to get commission comment and feedback on that. And then we're going to go to City Council on December 13th. This is not to decide the final ordinance, but to get their direction and their feedback too. And then once we've gone through that outreach process, had the feedback from the commission, from the City Council, the aim is to hopefully in October come to City Council with an ordinance, with a drafted ordinance regarding the REACH codes. And then hopefully get that, or to get that into the California Energy Commission process at the beginning of November. So the timeline is hopefully all going well, we can adopt, well, the REACH code can take effect January 1, 2023. So the consultants are doing a great job in helping us expedite that process. So I just want to thank the Commission for recommending that we do hire a consultant, because that was one of your recommendations earlier on this year. And then, as mentioned earlier on, in September, we'd like to work on developing a work plan for the Commission. I know there's been, the reason for this is we think that developing a work plan that we can share with the rest of the organization will very much help the Commission to be more effective than it already is, but it also give us the opportunity to work with different departments and saying, you know, these are areas of interest of the Sustainability Commission. We're going to be coming to you, asking you for information. So it gives us an opportunity to work with those departments much earlier in the process, so we can come to you with the information you want on those subject areas that are of interest to you. So our recommendations now just to begin to prepare ideas, think about areas that you'd like the Commission to work on, and then at the September meeting, we're going to have a facilitator, I believe, hopefully, to help do the prioritization and work through that process. So.
Yeah, we originally were thinking of doing it this meeting, but then I thought there might be a new commissioner coming on board, and then wanted to give that person an opportunity to be part of this process. If they do decide that the new council member decides to appoint someone new. So, thank you.
That is it for office updates. And next is item 7, adjournment. We just need a motion and second.
Before that, I have a quick question.
Yes, I would like to see if anyone has any closing comments before we adjourn. Yes, Commissioner Cartoonian.
I recently was reading a newsletter and found out that the city of Glendale has won a $34-point-something million grant on transportation electrification. It'd be nice to get this doesn't come by. $35 million grant from Caltrans is rare. So I'd love it if we can get a report of how they're going to spend the money and what steps we're going to take. This is an investment in the future. If we do not implement it correctly, this isn't something that you switch every few years. These buses last 10 plus years, if not more.
Great. I noticed some charging stations were going up at the parking structure across from the central library. There was like a whole bank of them going in over there, so that was nice to see. I actually saw something on TV. It was a mobile charging station, this robot thing that comes to your car, and you plug into that. I mean, that seems like it would be a good solution for existing multifamily housing where the landlord's not going to go through the expense of putting in that infrastructure. So I'm going to keep an eye out for those kinds of opportunities. I'm sure right now they're ridiculously expensive, but it's a technology that I think could develop into something affordable, hopefully. Did anyone else have any comments? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the
No.
motion.
Second.
The meeting is adjourned at 7:01 PM.